Was Rachel Reeves' budget really an assault on your savings and aspirations, as Nigel Farage claimed? At Reform UK's emergency press conference, Nigel Farage and Yusuf took the budget apart line by line and figure by figure. Then they showed how British taxpayers could have saved billions with a completely different approach. I will then explain why so many hardworking people feel worried and let down and present three timeless principles: incentives, responsibility, and solutions. You'll see exactly where this budget went wrong and what should have been done instead. Before we get into the details, if you love diving into political issues and enjoy hearing a principled take on them, then hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to join the conversation. It will help our channel reach a wider audience.
Very much sum up this budget as an assault on aspiration and an assault on saving. Quite frankly, what she's done with voluntary contributions to pensions will, I think, kill off the SIP market, the self-invested pension plan. I think today's budget will literally kill that off and do damage to the private pension market, pretty much equivalent to what Gordon Brown did 25 years ago when he put tax on dividend earnings, which then couldn't be fully reinvested. Unnoticed, perhaps, in some areas, dividend taxes up yet again. And, why would you invest if you feel there's a never-ending cycle of taxes on profits going up? Not to mention the mansion tax, which won't affect many people, but no doubt there'll be some widows living in Greater London that will be caused great distress by it. My big prediction from this budget is that the exodus will continue. They've got rid of the non-doms, well done. People that spend vast amounts of money in this country, that employ people, invest in people, they've gone. Many of our highest taxpayers, and bear in mind that 1% now pay 30% of all income tax, they're going. But worst of all of these signals from a government that literally doesn't understand business, because none of them have ever been in business, and frankly, there are few in the opposition who tick that box either. Now, my prediction is the exodus will continue, the exodus will accelerate, and the tragedy of it is the sheer number of 30-somethings who want to work hard, who want to do well, who are ambitious, and for them, they're seeing the Gulf. They're even seeing, ironically, other European countries. Milan in Italy being perhaps a very good example where young, hardworking entrepreneurs are going. That's one very, very big prediction that I've got from this budget. And the other one is, don't be deceived by being told that bills will go down. The big reach-out pledge of this budget, frozen train fares, yes, for those that commute, but energy bills, that's the big push from the government in this budget. Your energy bills will go down by £150. Bear in mind, this is the government that said they'd reduce energy bills by £300, and they're up almost exactly £300. The £150 reduction will be where they take some of the green subsidies, about 3/4 of the green subsidies off domestic energy bills, and throw that into general taxation, which means the working population will actually pay even more than we thought when I walked out of the chamber just some time ago. Energy clearly is going to be at the centrepiece of everything we fight for and stand for over the next couple of years. We cannot have an industrial strategy. We cannot reindustrialise. We cannot invite significant investment, be it British or be it foreign, until first we crack the nut of energy. And I would say this, we can't perform miracles if we win the next election, but we can at least be realistic. And we can at least say that already within Reform, we have people who've succeeded in the private sector, who've created jobs, who've paid taxes. And it's very much our ambition that we would have people in ministerial positions who are experts in their areas of expertise. Getting back to energy, just think about it. 10 energy ministers over the course of 14 years under a Conservative government, not one of them had a clue about energy. Just allowing civil servants to go on running these departments and maintaining a failed status quo. So we will come in with people that actually know what they're doing, the people who've worked in the private sector, and we will attempt to turn around attitudes in this country towards hard work and success. Well, one of those players who's part of the reform team, who has succeeded in the private sector and who's made a detailed analysis of this budget already, and will tell you some of the ways in which Rachel Reeves did not need to put up taxes like that, is my colleague, Zia Yusuf.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, yes, it was after the leakiest budget process we've had in memory. We had a leak on the day. It was an omni-shambles budget from an omni-shambles chancellor. As Nigel has laid out, according to the OBR forecast, now taxes are indeed going up to 38% as a percentage of GDP by 2029. Welfare spending is going to be £16 billion higher by 2029. And a really important footnote on that is that despite the OBR, it's really important people clock this, the OBR have assumed that the enormous growth in caseloads and things like PIP, for example, that we have seen since the end of COVID will slow. They haven't given any justification for that, but they've just assumed that it will slow. And if it didn't slow, if it continues at its current pace, then welfare spending will be £27 billion higher by 2029. That is one of many reasons why even the current OBR forecasts, as gloomy as they are inevitably and sadly going to be wrong. We have £1.8 billion allocated to digital ID. No electoral mandate for that whatsoever, deeply unpopular in the country, and they are taking up 1.8 billion out of the Home Office budget, which is the only government department whose budget has been frozen in real terms, making a mockery, frankly, of Shabana Mahmood's statements. And at a time when immigration is the number one issue in the country, what did Labour do? They basically freeze Home Office funding and take £1.8 billion of that budget to spend on digital ID, which is appalling. As Nigel said, net immigration reaffirmed to be up at 340,000 in 2029. By the way, when has that number ever been correct, and when has it ever been incorrect in the right direction? It's always wrong, and it is always much higher than the OBR forecast. So just a few days ago, actually, me and Nigel laid out what a reform government would have done if we were in government right now, what a reform chancellor would have done. We laid out £25 billion of savings that could have been made, and lo and behold, Rachel Reeves has just raised taxes by £26 billion. So what would we have done? What could she have done? Well, here's the key philosophical difference in terms of who has to bear the brunt of these difficult choices that need to be made. We keep hearing that, right? We've heard that. It's been the refrain of the political class for as long as I can remember. Difficult choices need to be made. Well, who should bear the brunt of those difficult choices? In Nigel Farage's view, and in my view, and in Reform's view, it should be foreign nationals who first and foremost bear the brunt of that. For too long, it has been the case of British citizens being told, pay more tax, accept worse services. Well, there's basically unlimited money available, blank checks for foreign nationals. We saw that, for example, you've seen in the OBR document today, Home Office saying that spending on asylum accommodation is going to be 15 billion over the next decade, not the 4.5 billion, which is an already outrageous number. It's going to be 15 billion. So here's what we would have done. Number one, we would have materially cut the foreign aid budget. As we've said, of course, the United Kingdom should aspire to foreign aid. Why wouldn't we? But how can we justify spending £14 billion a year on foreign aid while, for example, 15-year-olds in Wales have a lower educational attainment than 15-year-olds in Turkey, and the British government sends hundreds of millions of pounds in foreign aid to Turkey? How does that make any sense at all? So we would put a hard cap of £1 billion on foreign aid, which would save £10 billion this year alone. Number two, we would meaningfully increase the immigration health surcharge. That is the amount of money that many visa holders pay to access our NHS, which, as we know, is already buckling under pressure and struggling. That would raise £5 billion this year alone based on current immigration forecasts for this year. And then there's the welfare bill that we just talked about, that is a runaway train to which the British economy and all of us, sadly, are attached and is heading for the cliffs. Well, what we would do is we would stop paying welfare payments to foreign nationals. Here's our belief We believe that the British state exists to serve British citizens, which is an outrageous position these days in the House of Commons for the most part, and with the political class, but we make no apologies for saying it is unconscionable for British taxpayers to go to work and spend much of their day paying for a benefits bill for foreign nationals. It's totally unfair. No serious country should operate that way. And the government actually hides, the Tories did this, Labour are continuing it, they basically hide the data on foreign national usage of many aspects of state, whether that's the NHS. Lee Anderson tried again just yesterday, got the same answer. Sorry, we don't track that data. What a surprise. Similarly, we don't get the data on PIP, we don't get the data on pensions, but we do get the data on universal credit. So that's why that is in our numbers. So we would cease payments to foreign nationals when it comes to universal credit, and yes, including EU nationals who are here on settled status. That would save £6 billion this fiscal year, assuming a 3-month notice period. And then we also have foreign nationals in our prisons. Over 10,000 foreign nationals languish in our jails. Most of those people, by the way, were put there under a Tory government. We should not forget that. But that number is not going down under Labour. And recent analysis suggests £640 million is the cost annually of keeping those people. So even net of deportation costs, that's about £500 million that can be saved. And then the other major saving on the theme of welfare, which must be brought under control, is our reforms that Lee and I announced in terms of PIP, where we would take people who are receiving PIP payments for non-serious anxiety and put them on back-to-work programs, where the preponderance of academic literature in Europe shows time and again that is the best possible thing you could do for them. It's pretty good for the taxpayer too. That would save £3.5 billion this year, rising to £9 billion a year by 2029. You top all of those up, you get £25 billion, which is just £1 billion less than the amount of money Rachel Reeves has raised taxes by. In the end, the only way that we break this country out of this doom loop that it's been in is by doing the opposite of what the political class has been doing. Kind of by definition, that's what we have to do. We need to reduce spending and allow people to keep more of their wages. Right, and the political class, the Tories, did the opposite of that year after year after year. They ran a deficit. They talk now about being the party of fiscal responsibility and living within our means. They ran a deficit 14 years in a row. They almost tripled the national debt. They built nothing of significance. They took the tax burden to the highest level since World War II. All Rachel Reeves is doing is continuing the decisions that the Tories made. So that is what reform would do. We would put British citizens first. And had Rachel Reeves taken up our suggestions that we published and were crystal clear and could have been implemented right now, again, that 25 billion number is for this fiscal year. It grows significantly, and most of those numbers multiply by 2029. Had she done so, she would not have had to need to raise taxes, and this doom loop could have been stopped.
If you strip away the spin, every budget boils down to 3 questions. Does it get incentives right? Does it demand responsibility? And does it actually offer solutions? Rachel Reeves' budget fails on every single count. First, incentives. This budget is a slap in the face to everyone who gets up early, works hard, saves, and aspires to get ahead. At the same time, it offers a warm hug and a big kiss to anyone content to stay on welfare or keep having loads of children they have no intention of providing for through work or enterprise. That is not neutrality. This is a deliberate choice to reward the wrong behavior. And when you reward the wrong behavior, you are guaranteed to make the country poorer. Next, responsibility. Energy is one of the most fundamental building blocks of any prosperous nation. Yet Britain is saddled with some of the highest prices in the developed world. Why? Because governments have chosen to keep importing oil and gas rather than extracting our own abundant reserves. The same lack of responsibility runs through the entire tax system. Keep increasing the burden on wealth creators, and inevitably, many of them leave. When that revenue disappears, the government simply raises taxes on the working and middle classes to fill the gap. Continue down that path, and as Margaret Thatcher warned, eventually you run out of other people's money. The result is predictable. More people drawn into welfare dependency, owning less and less, and being told they should be grateful for it. A real government makes responsible choices that allow citizens to become responsible for themselves and their families. Only then do hardworking people stop being forced to carry the bill for everyone who refuses to carry their own weight. Finally, the principle of solutions. Early in my career at a major Fortune 500 company, I spotted a serious problem and took it straight to my manager. He looked at me and said, "Never bring me a problem unless you have a solution that can fix it." That single sentence has stayed with me ever since. That is the solutions principle in action. For years, the opposition loved nothing more than pointing out problems while never once bringing proper answers. Then you watch Nigel Farage and Yusuf at the Reform UK press conference. They went through Rachel Reeves' budget line by line, figure by figure, and every single time they identified something wrong, they put a clear, workable, fully costed alternative on the table. Any fair-minded person watching could see the difference immediately. That is the gulf between professional complaining and genuine leadership. Incentives, responsibility, solutions, three simple principles this budget fails on every count. And that is why so many hard-working British people feel worried, let down, and angry. And why, unless it is reversed, we will all end up poorer because of it. So here's my challenge to you. From today forward, judge every politician and every budget by these three principles. Do their incentives reward responsibility or punish it? Do their plan make people more self-reliant or more dependent? Do they bring solutions or just complaints? Hold them to that standard every single time. If enough of us do, we might finally get the government this country deserves. If you have benefited in any way from this video, please subscribe, like, share, and be sure to leave us a comment.